We at UTEP are celebrating our centennial year this year. This is the 100-year anniversary. I think you probably have to be in a closet somewhere or under a rock to not know that, because we have been letting everyone know. Now, universities serve a very important role in both hosting events like this and serving as a forum for difficult discussions. We are often put in a role of being a neutral body that allows people to talk about very difficult topics, such as the topic that we are addressing today. The Department of Social Work here at the University of Texas at El Paso, and Sylvia Chavez Varey and Dr. Eva Moya have been instrumental in arranging this event today. Our partners from the Mexican Consulate here in El Paso, as well as the United States Consulate in Ciudad Juarez, and many governmental entities and federal agencies, the criminal justice system, and so many that have a part to play in this important discussion about human trafficking. I'm glad that we are here today to start looking at solutions and start looking at the partnerships that are going to be so critical to address and make some progress on this very important issue.
Según el protocolo de Palermo, la trata de personas es la captación, transporte, traslado, acogida o recepción de personas recurriendo a la amenaza, al uso de la fuerza, rapto, engaño, fraude, abuso de poder o de una situación de vulnerabilidad con fines de explotación sexual, laboral o de otra índole. Esta problemática, por desgracia, afecta de manera directa a los grupos más vulnerables de la sociedad, como mujeres, niñas, niños, adolescentes y, por supuesto, migrantes. Es la actividad delincuencial más lucrativa del mundo después de la venta ilícita de armas y de drogas. Más de 20 millones de personas en el mundo son víctimas de trata, de las cuales el 98% son mujeres y niñas. La trata de personas genera más de 32 mil millones de dólares en ganancias al año, como ya lo ha señalado la doctora Curtis. Más de 12.3 millones de adultos y niños en el mundo son sujetos a trabajo forzado. 9.8 millones de personas son explotadas para propósitos de comercio sexual y o trabajo forzado. Desde el 2007, 800,000 personas son víctimas de tráfico en fronteras internacionales cada año. 2 millones es el número de niños explotados por la industria del sexo comercial en el mundo. Y desafortunadamente, el área de El Paso, Ciudad Juárez, no está exenta de esta situación. El Departamento de la Conferencia Nacional de Justicia de Tráfico Humano estima que 1 de cada 5 personas víctimas de trata en los Estados Unidos pasan por el estado de Texas a través de la autopista I-10 en su ruta hacia el interior del país. La oficina del Procurador de Texas estima que cada año 3.600 víctimas de trata ingresan a Estados Unidos vía El Paso para ser luego transportadas a Houston y después distribuidas a todo el país. Por ello resulta de gran importancia crear conciencia en la comunidad sobre las características, los riesgos, los recursos disponibles que este crimen trae a la sociedad. Por ese motivo es primordial establecer lazos de comunicación eficaces entre los proveedores de servicios de ambos países, redoblar esfuerzos para difundir información y continuar el trabajo de sensibilización en nuestra comunidad, teniendo siempre en mente que nuestro objetivo es atender de manera respetuosa y con profundo compromiso a quienes así lo requieren. Deseo resaltar de manera especial el trabajo de las organizaciones comunitarias y de derechos humanos que han venido realizando en torno a este delito, desde los dos lados de la frontera. Sin su colaboración, habría un enorme vacío que las instituciones gubernamentales definitivamente no seríamos capaces de llenar. Quisiera finalizar reconociendo la participación de nuestros ponentes, representantes de dependencias gubernamentales, del Poder Judicial y de organizaciones de la sociedad civil, quienes con su asistencia demuestran su compromiso con nuestras comunidades.
Why trafficking in persons is so important. It's not a crime that only occurs in isolated places. or only at specific times, or only victimizes a narrow set of individuals. Trafficking in persons encompasses all the conduct involved in holding a person in a state of compelled service, whether for labor or for commercial sex. It is modern-day slavery. It takes place every day and in every country around the world. It's a crime that is estimated to victimize up to 27 million men, women, and children. And every single person living under the yoke of modern slavery is a victim of a kind of exploitation that has absolutely no place in the 21st century. And every single victim deserves our focus and our attention. Speaking more broadly, this is a crime that undermines the rule of law. It tears apart families and communities. It creates instability, fosters corruption, and taints the activities that are essential to the success of both of our societies and our economies. As the others have done, I'd like to touch a few statistics that demonstrate the scope of the problem that human trafficking represents locally. According to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, more than 2,200 calls to the center's hotline were from Texas in 2013, second only to California. While victims of trafficking in Texas come from countries around the world, including the United States, and that's an important point, including the United States. 60% of the people the Center of Hope cares for here in El Paso are from Mexico. So human trafficking is a problem that harms the societies of both the United States and Mexico. And as such, the responsibility to combat this crime is a shared one. But in cases where we suspect there's maybe a heightened risk of trafficking, whether related to a particular industry or migration route, or even a major sporting event, we need to work together to ramp up efforts to prevent this crime and to root it out. But also, as you will be doing, to develop fresh ideas for identifying victims, investigating trafficking cases, and enforcing trafficking laws. Efforts to respond to modern slavery need to be sustainable and comprehensive, targeting all forms of trafficking. Addressing those risks means putting safeguards in place every step of the way. For example, in the case of debt bondage, what methods are being used to screen migrant workers who may be the victims of trafficking? In the case of sex trafficking, how are law enforcement personnel and people in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industries being trained to identify potential trafficking situations? Not just child sex trafficking, but that of adults as well. These are questions that governments should be grappling with every day. Despite the apparent scope of this crime, we heard earlier the numbers range from 4 million to 27 million. Only about 40,000 victims of trafficking are firmly identified every year worldwide. So as we continue to focus on modern slavery and making it a priority to prevent trafficking and to improve the identification and rehabilitation of victims, we also need to keep gathering data and information about this aspect of the crime. Where is it taking place? Who are the criminals driving these enterprises? And what is the most effective way to prevent it? Once people understand modern slavery, the way it touches their lives and communities, how to spot it, and who to call if they do, that knowledge doesn't go away, just as trafficking does not go away when people turn off the news. What makes me so proud and honored to be part of this conference is that you all have come together on behalf of those who live in the shadows, those who live among us but have no voice.
Sobre cuáles son los servicios y las atenciones que presta el Instituto Chihuahuense de la Mujer en Ciudad Juárez y en el estado de Chihuahua y cómo estamos interactuando para prevenir y combatir la trata de personas. Pero más importante es recordar cómo Ciudad Juárez fue conocida a nivel internacional por las mujeres juarenses víctimas de feminicidio a partir de 1998. Esto causa su mayor nivel cuando son descubiertos unos cuerpos de mujeres en el campo algodonero de Ciudad Juárez, un campo deshabitado, un terreno deshabitado. A partir de ahí siempre autoridades nos han dicho, Pero es que no nada más las mujeres de Juárez son víctimas de la violencia, han sido víctimas de feminicidio. También en el Estado de México, que es muy fuerte este delito, y en otras partes del país, sí, con la única diferencia de que la mujer de Juárez levantó la voz, y levantó la voz hacia las instancias internacionales, hacia todos los que nos quisieron oír, para protestar por estas víctimas de feminicidio.
Están tomándose el tiempo para venir a escuchar un poco del trabajo que estamos haciendo en Ciudad Juárez, en el estado de Chihuahua, en relación a la atención integral, interinstitucional que reciben las mujeres que son víctimas de violencias, en donde desgraciadamente, lo comentaban hace un momento, el 98% de víctimas de trata repercute en mujeres y en niños y niñas. Establecer los mecanismos de prevención, atención, sanción y erradicación de la violencia contra las mujeres por razones de género, así como la atención a sus familias en los términos de las leyes aplicables. El pasado 8 de marzo, el edificio que ocupan las instalaciones del Centro de Justicia para las Mujeres fue designado con el nombre de Marisela Escobedo Ortiz, que también es una mujer, bueno, es un nombre emblemático también, donde laceroso también para las autoridades mexicanas, en el sentido de que esta mujer, por exigir justicia, porque su hija fue privada de la vida por su pareja sentimental, y fue declarado, pese a él haber aceptado esos hechos y haberse declarado culpable de este asesinato, lo dejan en libertad. Lo dejan en libertad y ella no cesó, siguió, emprendió una lucha para que se hiciera justicia y para que esta persona fuera privada de la libertad y fuera castigada por lo que le había hecho a su hija, y lamentablemente encontró la muerte en puertas de Palacio de Gobierno en Chihuahua. Entonces, el Centro de Justicia para las Mujeres es también, todas las acciones que emprendemos ahí son a nombre de esta persona y a nombre de todas las mujeres que no se han cansado de exigir justicia. El modelo que nosotras implementamos ahí es un modelo interdisciplinario, secuencial, interinstitucional y especializado, que permite reunir a las diferentes instituciones y organizaciones, tanto públicas como privadas, que brindan servicios a mujeres víctimas de violencias de género en un solo edificio.
I'll say this, when the ACT team started about 3 years ago, we were told that there really wasn't much trafficking in El Paso. Local law enforcement said that it didn't really exist. And I think what we discovered over the last 3 years is that we just weren't looking in the right places. And the reality is trafficking is very present and prevalent in El Paso, and it's, as you would expect, being this close to the border, it's truly a binational problem. We have a large number of trafficking cases that implicate people being brought over from Mexico either on their own or lured under some type of false pretense. We've investigated and prosecuted cases like that. We've also investigated and prosecuted trafficking cases that are purely domestic in terms of gang-related offenses and things like that. But certainly trafficking is alive and well, unfortunately, in the El Paso area. And I'd like to think that we've made a difference to some degree. We've certainly prosecuted a lot more cases regarding trafficking in the last 3 years than we did any time before that. One of the cases that we wanted to talk about, as this is a conference discussing the issues with Mexico, is a Charles Marquez case, which is a sex trafficking case that we tried last November here in the El Paso area. That case really started with some investigation through HSI into what looked like it was just going to be a simple prostitution case and a man who might be involved in prostitution, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. I'll let Anthony Miranda talk about just kind of how the investigation began.
So, as I mentioned, one of the big things that we investigate, we understand the prostitution is the big sexy thing that a lot of people see and hear, movies, television, print, but we also have labor trafficking. Many of the cases that we've seen have been where people are recruited from other countries, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and they're told, hey, you can make a lot of money in the United States very quickly. And all of these people, you have to understand, they have almost no jobs, or they earn very little. And so they're given this opportunity, hey, you can earn up to $50,000 in 6 months if you come and you work for a pineapple farm, you come and you work for an agricultural strawberry farm, we've had apple farms, or you work for a hotel. They take the opportunity to sign a contract, and they have to put up some sort of collateral. I've seen people put up their family rye, which is the family land that they've lived on for hundreds of years. That is all that the family has, and they have to put up the collateral to say that they will come back to that specific country. They get to the United States, and instead they figure out that they're living with 60 other people in one gigantic room with no facilities. Their documents are taken away from them, and they are forced to work from early in the morning till late at night, and they're not allowed to call home. They're not allowed to leave. Some of them are beaten, and they do this for 6-7 months until either somebody says, hey, there's something not right there. There's 60 people that are all being bussed somewhere, and we don't know what they're doing. Or one of them escapes and actually lets law enforcement know what's going on. We've seen this all over the country. Big cities, Florida. We see it in Hawaii a lot, California. Here in El Paso, we have the agricultural pecan farms. And what we do is we work together with the Department of Labor and we work together with HSI because these people are afraid. They've been told that law enforcement is not going to help them. Law enforcement is only going to deport them. But also, they've earned wages that they never got paid for. So we, in these cases, we've actually worked with the Department of Labor to get these people their restitution. The money and hours that they put in to that work, we work so that when this case gets prosecuted and indicted, we work to get them the money that they earned. And so these are very emotional cases as well because these people were taken advantage of. They were coming to essentially make a better life for their families. They've got families back home. They wanted to earn that money to build their home. And instead, they were taken advantage of. So these are a lot of the cases that we see. Then you can see in your own neighborhood somebody that's working as a domestic employee. You think it might not happen, but there was actually a case in the Midwest where 2 doctors had a woman from the Philippines working in their home for over 19 years, and nobody in the neighborhood knew because they kept her in the basement.
And I believe you guys are actually going to hear. You may hear from a victim today of domestic service.
And it's all about you, people in the community, keeping an eye out. And the only reason people found out about that one woman is because one of the children who she helped raise got engaged, cheated on her. She'd met the woman and never pissed off a woman. She went straight to the police and told them what was going on. And that woman was torn because she'd lived with that family for so long. She'd raised those children. But she'd never gotten paid. She would have to wash their car every day, and they would put the garage in the car so that nobody would see her washing the cars. And in the end, that family, those doctors actually got indicted, and they had to pay that woman for those 19 years that she had worked, essentially 24 hours a day.
So we were asked to talk about the binational project on domestic violence. The first thing I want to say is that in our project, the binational project of domestic violence is more about international child abductions, not specifically about human trafficking. We have worked in many cases of international child abduction, and we have never seen a parent taking a child to Mexico in order to traffic the child or force the child to work in sex trafficking or forced labor. So, since this is a trafficking conference, I'm going to talk a little about the binational project on domestic violence and also our binational End Trafficking Today project. So, I work in Texas legally. We provide legal services for low-income individuals. This is our service area. And like I said before, the binational project of domestic violence is about parental abduction. The parental abduction is the taking, retention, or concealment of a child by a parent, another family member, or even another agent in derogation of custody rights or visitation rights of another parent or family member. Sadly, many law enforcement agencies are yet to be trained on the matter. The person from the Instituto Chihuahuense de la Mujer say there's a fine line between similar crimes, and sometimes they will say that the crime was prostitution or kidnapping, but not human trafficking. There was a time that we went to the Ministerio Público to try to file a report for human trafficking with the mother of the victim, And Ministerio Público told us that he could not file a report for human trafficking. And he recommended not to do that because they knew that the cartels were involved in the human trafficking business. So we weren't able to file a human trafficking report, but a missing persons report.
2013, the state of Texas approved a bill to have counties with a population of 200,000 or more to have such programs. What this program is prostitution diversion or prostitution rehabilitation initiative. And what it does is to really implement a different lifestyle, a lifestyle change for persons that are arrested for prostitution. And really it's under the mental health umbrella of trying to provide services, substance abuse services, for drug and alcohol abuse if that's the problem that these persons are having that are leading them into this lifestyle. Again, if they have suffered from some sort of childhood trauma, child abuse, sexual abuse, those issues are also addressed. So really the way this program works is to, whenever these individuals are arrested for prostitution, they are immediately triaged and assessed to see what their needs are to try to get them into a more positive lifestyle. Along with the court, what the court does is pretty much waive all of the prosecution and in lieu of them going through this 9-month program. If they successfully complete this 9-month program, then in some cases, or hopefully most cases, their charge will be dismissed.
Ahora son trata de personas. Personas como nosotros que estamos aquí, nosotros podemos ser víctimas. A lo mejor ustedes ya no, porque ya saben, más o menos ya tienen una idea de lo que es trata y podrían defenderse o a dónde acudir. Pero cualquier persona, no importa su edad, puede ser víctima de este delito. Claro, hay personas, grupos más vulnerables por la ignorancia o porque por el género las hace vulnerables, pero todos podemos ser víctimas. Les quiero comentar que esta fiscalía tiene un apoyo integral, quiere decir que abarca todas las áreas de la persona, porque nosotros trabajamos con la Fiscalía General del Estado, somos parte de la fiscalía y la fiscalía es la que investiga, la que persigue el delito. Mis compañeras trabajan alrededor, es una institución que están alrededor de la fiscalía, nos apoyamos, pero nosotros como fiscalía especializada estamos dentro de la fiscalía que imparte justicia. Entonces, nosotros participamos activamente con ellos. De hecho, cuando nosotros recibimos una víctima, la ley antes nos decía, víctima es la persona que tiene una denuncia. A lo mejor una persona estaba sufriendo de un delito, pero no lo había denunciado. Entonces, para nosotros no era una víctima. Ahora, con la Ley General de Víctimas, una víctima, aunque no tenga su denuncia, ya se considera una víctima. Y eso es muy importante. Es un paso muy grande que tiene la Ley General de Víctimas. Puede acercarse a una persona y con un psicólogo, porque como decía la licenciada, es tan delgada la línea entre un delito y la trata de personas, porque me pueden decir, no, pues era tráfico, no, era violación, o era omisión de cuidados, pero es tan pequeña esa línea que a veces no la canalizamos, este es otro delito y no le damos la importancia. Ahora hemos trabajado las unidades especializadas de la Fiscalía, estamos trabajando para que si una mujer, una niña, un niño llega con un delito sexual, de índole sexual, no es tratar, no cumple, porque como somos una Fiscalía tenemos que cumplir lo que dice el delito, todos los elementos del delito para calificar un delito.
Okay, what can we do as a community? I have a favor to ask everybody. Put your hand up in the air. Just raise it up there and keep it up. Okay. When you look at the logo of the Center of Hope, that logo in and of itself is representative of what you're doing right now. The hand, the outstretched hand, means stop. Typically the logo has a heart in it, which is in blue. Blue being victims' rights, whites being innocence. But the 5 fingers, go ahead and put your hands down. I don't want you to get too much exercise. Okay? You got your 5 fingers. Okay? Those are the 5 elements of the community that have to come together. And when I talk about the 5 elements, you as an individual, religious organizations, service providers, law enforcement, and civic organizations. It's not going to go away unless we come together as a community. The Center of Hope is a community-based organization. We don't do it all alone. We work with several partners. And if I asked a question right now, those that I have worked with in the past through the Center of Hope, would you please stand? Okay, there's 2 that I know of in the room. Okay, STARS, Sexual Trauma Assault Response Services, Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center. We have 30 different partners that come together to pull this off. Why don't we do something about it? I'm going to be very blunt with you right now. El Paso suffers from what I refer to as an eyes wide shut phenomenon. We see it, we hear it, but we don't do, and forgive me, a damn thing about it. Folks, it's time to wake up. You are the ones that can change this. Valerie mentioned it. It's that gut feeling in the pit of your stomach that something just isn't right. And I wanted to reemphasize it. Then you make a phone call. And if you write down any number today, I want you to write down this number right here. And I'm expecting everybody's heads to go down to their paper and start writing. Okay? It's a toll-free number. 888-3737-888.
It's a community. We cannot do it all. It is a conduit, Center of Hope, as you can see, because law enforcement has to be involved. If we have a case and if they are willing to give their testimony, then of course our first contact is law enforcement. The thing is that without law enforcement we wouldn't have any prosecution. And you saw the team up here that does all of that work. They go and they corroborate every single detail that these survivors have given to them, and they also collaborate with various agencies, including those that are overseas, because they have to make sure that they have all their dots and I's dotted and T's crossed, because the attorney has to accept the case to bring it before the courts. Again, the service providers are next, and that's where all of us, I'm just a conduit. As I was telling you, I go to the different locations to make sure that all of these services are provided to our survivors. Community organization, we are a community. We are organizing ourselves so that we can become aware of what is going on in our city, what we can do about our city, and the problem that we're having, especially now with the sex prostitution. Religious community. Hey, we go out into the churches. You reach thousands of people that way. Again, the individual. If the individual, again, is willing to give that testimony, then of course all of these services are provided.